He was, you have to think that at that time, most of his predecessors have been killed, like the young Tsarevich, and after Boris, many others, included his son Fyodor. Fyodor will reign 8 months and then he will be killed. And the fake Dmitri will be Tsar very shortly, because even for him there will be a very terrible ending, because he will be thrown out of a window in the Kremlin, and his body was put inside a cannon and fired towards Poland. So, I mean, this was the Russia of those years. So, why making all this noise about whether Boris was guilty or not, when it was something that was happening all the time, before and after him? It makes this story more beautiful, more interesting. Of course, there were a group of people thinking and trying to find out, prove that he was guilty, some other exactly the opposite. Why I like to think? First of all, since I had the opportunity to do already for 12 years this role, living this character under my own skin every night on stage, you start to be somehow the character. And I like to think that he didn't do it. He was, unfortunately for him, quite weak mentally. And you don't have to forget that there are no proof about this, but it seems that he was poisoned little by little. And this was provoking also this mental weakness and this general weakness of the character. He died suddenly after, they say, by a stroke, after having drank the last glass of wine. So maybe it had a substantious part of poison. So he was surrounded by snakes. My colleague, who is absent, he is the best of them. And he made a big mistake to send to Uglitch, the place where the Tsarevich was supposed to have been killed, to make an inquiry. As a commissioner, he sent Shuisky. So when Shuisky came back, he could mix up the story in the way he wanted. And Boris, unfortunately, was believing it. And gradually, inside himself, I like to think that he knew that he didn't do it. But if there were so many rumors about it, maybe there was some truth in some hidden part of his brain. So this is what makes this character also extremely interesting and beautiful to sing and to act, because it gives you the possibility to play constantly by contrast. You have the strong politician having a very violent fight with Shuisky. Just before, you have the most devoted and in-love father that you can imagine. Then you have this remorse that is biting his heart continuously and is leading him towards madness and death. I mean, there is such a universe of feelings going on in this man in 40 minutes of singing, because it's not more than that. So it's quite a demanding role, but it's such a beauty. It's such a privilege to be on stage, being this amazing character.
Well, it's true, Sigmund Freud talks about a guilt complex. I have friends who feel very guilty, even when they haven't done anything wrong. I suppose it is possible that he is consumed by guilt feelings.
Especially if there is somebody behind you telling you.
Yes, that's true. And again, I'm very sorry that our guest, Stefan Marmuti, who's not here, because he plays the real villain, the arch villain of the opera, at least in this version, this 1869 version that they're doing. In the later revision, there's another villain who kind of takes over as the main bad guy, but not nearly as scary, I think, as Szwedzki. So it would be interesting to hear the tenor give his own testimony about this. I mentioned earlier that there is an important Italian connection with this opera, and I just wanted to go over a couple of historical bits. The first time this opera was given in the United States, it was conducted by Toscanini at the Metropolitan Opera in New York, and that was a performance in Italian. And believe it or not, that was typical. Most performances of Boris Godunov in the United States were given in Italian for a number of reasons, including the presence of important Italian basses who sang the role, Ezio Pinza and Cesare Siepi later on. We actually have some recording